Oh, it all got quiet. I guess you guys are expecting
Blah, blah, blah,
something
blah,
to
blah, blah.
begin. So, hi, good evening. Welcome. I'm so happy to see you all here. I am Melia Bensussen, Artistic Director of Hartford Stage, and thrilled to welcome you to Seen and Heard Live. Feeling very much the talk show host all of a sudden, straight from rehearsal. This is our fourth Seen and Heard this season. If you're counting, right, we opened with Rope and had Christmas Carol. We have the extraordinarily funny, wonderful production of The Cottage running right now on stage, right? Really extraordinarily brilliant production. So if you haven't seen The Cottage, do come see The Cottage. But we're here today, and for those of you who are watching this online, to talk about Arthur Miller's American masterpiece, Death of a Salesman. And with me are two amazing actors. I'll try to stop using so many banal adjectives.
Keep going.
Brilliant, handsome, beautiful, stunning, electric actors. All of that is true, actually. Peter Jacobson and Adrianne Krstansky, who are playing Willy and Linda Loman. So we brought the parents. We'll talk a bit about all these aspects of the play. I just want to say what a thrill it is to be directing this production, right? So I have wanted to do this play for a very long time, and it was really, in many ways, about finding the right Willy and Linda Loman to tell the story. So it's a particular honor to introduce these folks to you and to say I really look forward to you seeing this production. I have a bunch of questions, but really this is meant to be a really wide open conversation. And, oh yeah, I have a few details about the play, which are useful to share, right? So, Death of a Salesman won the Pulitzer Prize, won a Tony Award, and what it's about is part of what I'd like us all to talk about, and I welcome your questions at the end. And I'll start by sort of saying we've had just 3 days of rehearsal, or 2.5 days of rehearsal due to the storm sort of changing some of people's travel plans. Our acting company comes from Utah, Chicago, New York, Boston, and some parts in between. And so travel was a bit challenging as everybody convenes for the first day of rehearsal in Hartford. Hartford Stage casts actors from all over the country. We bring people here. In this case, most people met for the first time. We have a story about that, which we'll see if we get to, about how these two did not meet for the first time in the rehearsal room, but that's for later in the conversation. And in these last couple of days, I'll start us off by saying what we've been doing is what's called in our lingo, if you will, table work, because it's work we do at the table. We're a very technical business, right? But we're sitting and reading and rereading and talking about the meaning of lines, the origin of the play. And one of the things, and I'd like to start the conversation with both of you this way, is to say, I keep saying we need to treat this as a new play. And I wonder when I say that, what that means to each of you, right? To put you a bit on the spot.
That's all right.
So what is that, because I keep saying it's a new play and we have been crossing out some things.
Right, I mean, there's the concern of, being too precious about it. I mean, we're not changing anything wholesale. The play is so fabulous because that's the play, but the work that we're doing, the table work, is all the personal stuff that we as actors bring. I have to bring myself to Willy. You have to bring yourself to Linda. That's what we do. So the map that Arthur Miller made is a blueprint for us to bring it, which means that we have to go through very, very specifically, and it's very arduous. It's slow. It's not tedious. It's, to me, some of the really thrilling to sit there and talk and say, well, wait a minute. This means that 15 years ago I did try to kill myself, or and now Biff is gone for how long. We want to get everything so clear so that then we can bring ourselves into it. And any sort of, and there's a lot of personal stories that get told along the way. It's, you know, you talk about technically what's going on in this scene, but then also suddenly we're just opening up about our own lives and stories and things that we bring to this moment. And this is an interesting perspective on this thing that Arthur Miller wrote in this moment, and we'll play it this way, and suddenly somebody who's not in the scene is talking about how that impacts them. And so we're just creating a really, really full world. Sorry, your question was, how is that new? That is new. I'm not thinking about the fact that this is a play that, you know, was a massive hit 80 years ago. It's our play. It's us. It's these people are bringing our lives to it, and I think you'll feel that when you see it. I mean, that's what any play worth its salt will sustain that.
Will feel new, right? I do think every play we do, we're doing a new play. Yeah. And how do these lines sound now? How do they land? And there's one other detail I would add to this, is part of it is plays are really organic in terms of the actors who inhabit them. And Death of a Salesman has a couple of interesting versions depending on the actor playing Willy. Adjectives change.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the person who created the role was Lee J. Cobb, who was a very big man.
But it was written for a very small man originally. So a line says, they called me shrimp, but the line in the published script says they called me a walrus.
And so when I was cast, it was very clear that we had to go back. First thing said, you want to play Willy? I said, are you going to make it shrimp? I said, duh. Oh, I took
But they changed it. Yeah, you took the mic off. It's so funny. I was thinking of taking off my sweater, and I had the same concern. It was originally shrimp. Lee J. Cobb was a big guy, so they changed the line for walrus, which to me is an indication of how much a play is a living document. Yeah. And it's got to keep changing and growing with the cast that inhabits it at that time. But Adrianne, what does it mean to you as we talk about this as a new play?
Well, I think listening to you too, I'm realizing there's so many ghosts in the room when you're rehearsing. There's all the people who have said attention must be paid, and the story about the guy on the train, and I think part of it is to be incredibly present with the person you're with and really hear their voice and look at their face. And also we're forming a family with these two really stunningly gorgeous actors that Melia cast as the boys, the sons.
They look like a family, I swear. They're stunningly gorgeous because so are the parents, just to be clear.
But I think part of it is like, it's the play, but it's new because we're all new to each other, except for Peter and I, who have this like very sordid history.
We keep building it up.
We keep building it up, and then
it's going to be like
it's not what you think.
Though there is that illegitimate child sort of out there somewhere.
Yeah. So.
Well, it's funny you say the thing about you want to look at each other, and it's a ton of material. I'm old enough now.
A lot of words.
I'm old enough now to be terrified of that. I haven't done my theater muscles have probably atrophied a fair amount, and so that concerns me. So I spent a lot of time before we started, being in the script and getting it, but you can only do so much alone. And now we're doing the table work, and so we're really, really in that script specifically. So we're at a table, and the script is open. I'm looking at, and all I want to do is, she's sitting next to me, you know, Adrianne's sitting next to me. I just want to look at her, and I want to speak it to you, but we're just not quite there yet. And so, you know, I'm in here, and I feel bad because it's got.
And to say that we're actually looking, or I am looking, as they're reading, at 3 different versions of the play. And so, and you've seen 2 different versions, and we're sort of going, oh, why? And there was a discovery for me yesterday in a line that was dropped from the published version that's in another version. And I was like, oh, this line, so you were William, do you know?
Right.
And now I saw that in the other script, and I was like, this changes the scene for me. So it's very exciting, and in that sense, for me, it's always a new play. I don't take anything for granted in there. And the same
What
as
happened to the line, he's just a little boat looking for a harbor?
I don't know.
Do you know that?
No. That when you said he's just.
That's in one version. It's. I know.
And is it describing? Is it her describing her husband?
Yes. He's just, I think it's to Biff to try to convince him, like,
He's
look,
just
Well, he says,
help him.
your father's
I
just
saw
this
that
big old
somewhere.
man.
Yeah,
Maybe it's that.
he's just a
I
he's
think
just
so.
a big dumb man to you,
Big
but he's
stupid
just
man.
big stupid man.
Says
But
he's just
he's
a stupid
a
little
little
boat.
boat
He's
looking
just a
for
stupid
Hubbard.
little boat. We should look at that.
It's a
Note to
great
self,
line.
you know,
I'll
for
bring it
tomorrow.
in tomorrow.
I like that.
It's great.
A lot of the language around, and this ties in a bit to the thinking about it as a new play, right? You were talking about the baggage. Years ago, I heard Fiona Shaw, that extraordinary Irish actress, talk about doing Medea. And she said that the hardest part about doing Medea was parking all the baggage the play came with outside the rehearsal room and just doing the play. I think there's a bit of that with Death of a Salesman. And one of the things we always hear is it's about the death of the American dream, or it's about the impossibility of the American dream. But the American dream is very much in the fabric of this play.
Oh yeah.
And what is that? We've been talking a bit about what's happening in the play in terms of some of the distinctly American threads that are in it. What does that speak of to you guys? Does it resonate now, this American dream, as I put it in quotations intentionally, as essential to the fabric of this play?
I would just say briefly that I think the real American dream is probably present with Charlie and his family.
They achieve it.
They achieve it, and they
they're
achieve
the
it.
neighbors.
They're the neighbors,
Loman's
and they
neighbors.
achieve it through education, through studying, through hard work, through sharing what they have with others. But he is a capitalist, you know, he is, but it's capitalism that I think really has value and virtue under it, in that those who have much share with those who do not have much. And this real sort of, that my parents sort of come from this very immigrant culture of that you come here and you work hard, you work really hard to get to raise a family and to be good to your neighbors. So I think it's present there. I think what happens is we really spin that into a very different place that is about celebrity and co-opting, and you know, I don't know what what the words are.
Part of Willy's pain and struggle is his inability. We're not playing as actors. I'm not going to play the politics of this play. You can't do that. That's for.
Wait, you're not?
The greater.
Oh, I got
Sorry.
it.
I'm not playing the American dream, but the failure to succeed. And this play was written. Miller famously was
34.
leftist and went before the House On-American Activities and was called a communist, and clearly wrote a piece that is about a change in the American dream and the inability, and how coming out of the Second World War, this sort of economic boom from a place of community, of all coming together for an international cause that was defeating fascism, and now America, we've won, and now we're all striving individually to succeed. In 1949, we're on the cusp of a huge boom.
Which is where we're setting the play. We do set it in 1949.
America was about, the hegemon of the world, and is a success on every level, and has left the rest of the planet behind. And in our little Brooklyn neighborhood, there's still those who are succeeding on their own, and then there are those who are feeling. I think we don't think of that part of that at any point in our history. There are those who are succeeding, those who are not. But the idea is that then in the late 40s we're moving. America's moving. Everybody's doing well. Willy Loman is not. It's not just that he's losing his mind, but part of the struggle is that he just doesn't feel like he adds up. His American dream is not materializing. He sees his boys aren't doing it. He's not doing it. His neighbor is, as you pointed out, and the American dream is not happening.
What that speaks to me, and what the play is sort of extraordinary about, as the deeper we go into it, is how much it's telling you how you construct the story of what you're supposed to go after, and how you construct the story of your own life in that pursuit is what can lead to a kind of contentment or not.
Yeah.
Right? And there's so that it's not, because you've both spoken so well about what is the American dream in here, and for me it's just extraordinary to track what the stories are that the Loman family tells themselves.
Right.
The original title of this play for Arthur Miller was Inside His Head. And he'd had a thought that he scribbled to one of his original collaborators, that maybe the whole set design, proscenium theater, right? We're in a thrust, so we'll talk about that in a minute, but would be the shape of a man's head, and that you would experience the whole play inside his head. The original stage directions, which have changed based on the original production, which is part of what we wrestle with, right? We have scripts full of stage directions, and a stage direction, just to be clear, is all the stuff in a play that tells you where to move, and often how you should feel as an actor. And I keep saying we ignore that. We ignore that. It's a new work. It's never been done before. But the original stage direction that Arthur Miller wrote is basically Willy Loman appearing in the darkness, holding keys, and opening an invisible door. So that's very non-realistic. There's an invisible door at the top of the play. And that, for me, in terms of our production, we're really counting on the actors' voices, sound, and lights, and not on, you won't come and see an actual house. You won't come and see a realistic couch and Linda really hanging laundry or really washing dishes. There's no running water on the set, right? Those are wonderful plays. That's not this production. Because it's, for me, this American dream is manifested in the storytelling that this family tells about what they should and can achieve in America, right? So that, which is a lot of challenge for actors because they get to be on an empty stage. Actors love props and scenery to lean on.
Right.
Real shit to sit on.
Well, it is a... Well, if we're going to sit, we're going to sit on something.
No, you're
don't
doing
have
a
the
whole
thighs
mime
to...
seating. You got to
All
do
right.
the whole mime.
See, we're just learning this. It's a second day rehearsal. I'm leaving.
They will
tomorrow.
have real chairs, I do promise.
But Miller called it a dream play. The play that had been a hit right before that, his first hit was All My Sons, which was very linear. There was a set. It was about a World War family.
Did any of you see All My Sons
yes, right,
at
you guys
Hartford
know
Stage?
it.
Okay.
So
that was real. They sat on real furniture.
Right.
There was real grass.
And Miller speaks about being relieved that this Death of the Salesman set him free from that. And at the time, the American theater, that was not something that anybody had seen or really had thought, to say that, time is not linear here. We will be just, it is a dream of Willy's descent and his madness, and it's past,
and part
forward,
of why
future. It's crazy.
he had a breakthrough about how to write Death of a Salesman after traveling to New Haven to see the first production of Streetcar Named Desire. Wow. And so hearing what Tennessee Williams was accomplishing opened him up to what was possible. I just love that, right? Because we think of people as individually achieving, and what you've really got is Odette's writing in the 20s and 30s, the group theater growing Odette's, and then that gives birth to Kazan as a director, which then leads to him taking on All My Sons, and Tennessee Williams writing, and anyway, I'll nerd out on this stuff.
No, it's good, but you get like Marlon Brando in 1947, who has exploded what we think of as theater. People went to go
And
see
acting,
him on
totally
that's what I mean. On
changed,
Broadway,
yes.
it was American naturalism, and here's this sweaty, sexy man, and it was, American theater had been much more mannered, and it was a completely revolutionary way of being on stage. And film then began, like in the 70s, late 60s and 70s, we began to see films that are really gritty and naturalistic, and much more so than decades before. So Miller is writing this after, somehow he's got the okay to let it rip, I think. That we're not stuck with the barriers that American theater has been stuck with.
You had a question.
So cool.
Well, just going back to where
And I'll repeat it so that you all can hear it. Yeah.
going back to where you started talking about the table reading, but now talking about blocking, how much of that are you factoring in here? How much are you revealing to them about what that's going to be? How much will that change once you start moving?
Okay, I love this
that's a
question.
great
Just to repeat,
question.
how much, right, we're doing table work, but we're also not talking about the staging, and how much am I thinking about the staging as we do the table work? You have a director in your head, I think. That is.
But then how much?
And then how much do
like,
they know about what's ahead with the staging? What do you guys think?
I think surprises await.
Yeah.
Oh, and I was going to say I'm very transparent. So
Well, you are I should say that.
no, but it's true. We
You
don't.
are you are transparent, but it's also theoretical, right?
Yes, that's
like
right.
It's until we get up and go and actually do it, and they go, and Melia sees it and goes, "Oh wait, no," or
That's exactly right.
yes, I was.
We're
that
going to
was
build
right.
it together.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've not worked with Melia before. I've
Right.
done plays where comedies where the day one on your feet, a director is like, okay, here, and then you go here on this line. I mean, there's some flexibility, but it's real clear that this is something that they've got mapped out, and some hopefully that's a good thing because the play wants it. We could get up there day one, and I could be like, well, on this line, I feel like going over here. You're like, no, you're going to be here. I mean, I don't think that's going to be it at all. I think it's a
You're
give
right.
and take.
It's very
I'm
organic.
gonna really want you to help guide me where you think
Right.
it should be because I'm in my own head. And Vivian, it's just it is a weird thing we have to put together, and I don't
Yes.
know what it'll be. You know how
Yeah,
tough
yeah.
you're gonna be.
Adrianne's worked with me, so she can feel a
see, Vivian.
little safe. You did call her Vivian. That was
I
sort
love
of
that.
Ben. Ben,
Vivian.
did you just call me Ben?
Ben.
That's a line
It's all
from the
right,
play,
you're channeling
right?
him.
You know, I think there are a lot of different approaches. Of course, as many different directors there are as different approaches to staging. For me, it is a continuation of table work, and we do keep negotiating. I love an empty stage because that way I don't have to make those decisions ahead of time. That's actually my, everything gets to move around because I really don't know how to move people till I have the people.
Can I add something that I love about working with you?
Oh,
is,
sure, please.
Once
Yeah.
you all come for
Previews.
previews, we go right back into rehearsal. Like you take everything, Melia takes everything that she learns once people
Once
come,
you
and
start
once
coming.
you start coming, and that takes it the next step forward.
So, for
Things
example,
will
one thing I
change
have
and-
said already to Peter is I think it starts with him at the very far upstage, as far from the audience as he can be, walking towards us, and we're really only going to see him lit, and then things swirl around him. What I mean by swirling, we will see, right? But what might happen, hypothetically, in a preview, is that I realize it's taking the audience too long to identify that that's Willy Loman.
Right.
So we could do that through tech. We'll get it perfect. Sound is timed, lights. First preview happens, you're all there, and I realize the play's not starting for 3 minutes because nobody knows what the fuck is going on stage. There's a guy walking, it's dark.
He's a
There's
shrimp.
a woman
You can't see
coming
him.
from a bed, and the bed's being pushed by another actor, and what's that about? Is this a mistake? And then I'm like, oh, this idea I had in rehearsal really sucks. But it's the glory, I think the key, having done this for a very long time now, which I get to say with great pride, is if you've got the essence of what the movement's going to be about, you can change it very quickly.
Yeah.
So if you know that the essence is a man appears in a space and voices surround him, and one of the voices is his wife and that anchors him, well, then Peter and I can try a million things.
Right.
And one preview he can enter one way, one preview maybe he'll enter from the house. Do you no, it's a terrible idea. But entering from the house always sounds really good to all of us making plays. We're all like, and they'll enter from the house and the audience will feel the connection. And then what actually happens in the theaters, you can't light them well. And you don't know where to come
And
in.
everybody feels like
And
thinking
everyone
day
feels-
by day.
And they can't see. And anyway.
Yeah, that's also
We're
very
not,
dramatic.
there is a secret about the floor in this, but I'm not gonna, that you're gonna have to see. Yeah.
This play was published in 1949. So at this time, our psychological knowledge about ourselves was very minimal. And basically, Willy is a victim of American dream and American capitalism, American propaganda, but he has no insight. Now, knowing all this, that's 70 years later, knowing now that we could influence ourselves, that we could change ourselves, he's not getting this. His son, Biff, is getting something of this. He's trying to find his own way. To which point are you going to use this?
This is a great question. So, Lucas, did we get it, or should I? Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you. I think the American dream and the sort of when, I'm going to go back a step. We talked about this opening in 1949. Very positively received, rave reviews, people very moved. And it was attacked for being an anti-capitalist play at a time when society was booming. Now, fast forward, I forget how many years later, I think it's late 70s, Arthur Miller directs Death of a Salesman in Beijing. And he writes a book, and there's a documentary about this called Salesman in Beijing. And what Arthur Miller writes, I've not seen the documentary, so my years might be off, so forgive me if you're all, whoever's watching and Googling and knowing that my years are off, forgive me. But what to me is most moving is that what Miller says is that he realizes how moving it is to the people in China, who at that time are not subject to marketing and capitalist ideals. Again, I'm using quotes, forgive me, given China now, it's sort of a funny thing to say. But what he talks about, which is what I hold on to, is that it's a play about how hard it is to be a father, a mother, a child, how we fail at all these things, how we all feel we fail. And yet, we have to give, or because of that, we have to give each other grace and love. For me, the play is a love story. It's layers of love stories. It is a story about a family of 4 people who love each other to death and yet cannot be in a room without saying horrible things to each other, right? Who have given up everything for each other, and yet it's still, they're not happy. And to me, that speaks through any economic system. Now, you're right, the framework is very much, we hear you say, that's the best advertised machine, it should work. You at one point say, well, the ads were all the best, and that's why we bought
ads,
it. The biggest ads. So there's a lot about this, but also there's just a sense of what have you made of your life? If I could go very Jewish on all of you for a moment, to me it's a very Jewish play, but the philosopher and rabbi Joshua Heschel, Abraham Joshua Heschel, says, make of your life a work of art. I think that's an extraordinary statement, right? And in his book about observing the Sabbath, I don't observe the Sabbath, but in his writing about religion, he talks about how we have to tell the stories about our lives that celebrate our lives and be as selective about our lives as we are about making works of art. And I feel like this family is failing at that. And capitalism is just the model in which you're doing it. So yes, you've absorbed, I think Willy Loman has absorbed some stories that have not been helpful. But there's great loss in his childhood. There's great loss in his life, and how to then build as a good father, how to make a good family, and how to feel at 60, which is the age of Willy Loman at the beginning of this play. The play happens over a period of about 24 hours. It's an extraordinary, it's really, in that sense, almost Aristotelian as a tragedy. It's so tight, right? It's almost real time, except for the the overnight. But it's really a sense of he is a great man, even though he's not great in the sense of that, right? It's a tragedy. And I'll say one more thing and then over to you guys about this topic, right? But you have the great speech about this, about a man doesn't have to be great. How do you isn't that mean of me?
No, but he's a human being, and a terrible thing is happening to him. So attention must be paid. He must not be allowed to fall into his grave like an old dog. Attention must finally be paid.
Even though he's not a great man, he can still have a great fall. And that was radical when this play was written, right? There's an op-ed in the New York Times that Arthur Miller writes at the time this play opens to say, because some of the criticism was it's not a tragedy because Willy Loman's not a king. If you think about Oedipus or King Lear.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Oh my God.
So it was said that Arthur Miller was writing a melodrama because a tragedy had to be a man who fell from greatness. And to me, what's so moving is that we all, at the end of our lives, or what we perceive to be the end of our lives, take stock, and when do we feel, Linda has that other line, life is a casting away.
Yeah.
And then you say, after she says life is a casting away.
So no, everybody accomplishes something. Everybody's got story. I mean, Willy is just struck by his stories and his own expectations, and that's as human as it gets. It doesn't matter where or when.
He's accomplished anything. He's accomplished so much.
Right.
He's accomplished so much, but it doesn't seem enough to him.
Yeah. Who can't relate to that?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. No, it's true. In your journeys as actors, can I turn it just sort of that a little bit? And I'll start with you, Peter. You talked about your theater muscles. I knew you as a theater actor when we were both very young together, just a few decades ago. But you ended up doing a lot of TV and film. Mm-hmm. And what's it like to be back doing? Have you done much theater the last couple of years? I never asked you this.
You should have asked.
I should have asked.
I did a play in 2019, right before COVID, but it was a bunch of one acts. So
You didn't have to sustain it
I
in
did
the
not,
same way.
and before that, it had been 10 years. So it's been a long time. So this is I'm really jumping back into the deep end here, but
So great.
it's not something that could. I mean, it's a dream to play this part. Any actor would want to play this part, and but yeah, I'm scared. It's a very different muscle.
Is it? What's so different?
Well,
what do you feel about, like,
even
the
in the
TV?
read through sometimes. I mean, TV and film. My training was in theater, and I got out of school and was trained to play in front of 1,000 people, or for 5 months.
And with a lot of classical training.
Yeah, and so I was in theater for about 10 years, and then the hardest part of the transition to film and TV was that you can't be like this. You have to basically kind of mumble and hopefully they want to look at you in their living room, and that's and you get lucky. But it is very different, and so in our table reads, I'm conscious of when I get kind of really, really quiet. I'm thrilled to hear that we're being mic'd. Not because
Not
I'm going
for volume. You're not being mic'd for volume.
Okay, but not because I don't feel like this play. I mean, I respect the hell out of this play. Theater is presentational. It's not. It's very purposefully for the people there, and it's just not TV and film. You're trying to make it look as real as possible.
And you're trying to bring people into you,
yeah,
right?
it's our job to come out, and that's the beauty of it, and that's what I love doing. It's just weird to come back to it after the sort of the quiet and the mumble of they're two very different challenges, because I think for actors in front of a camera, it's am I doing enough? Because it's got to be so quiet, and is this interesting in any way? Hopefully it is. Depends on the writing and everything else as well, and just what's coming out of you. But it's just so much more of a physical, visceral exercise on stage, and there's something. It's also just a right away day one. I mean, I already went grocery shopping with the guy playing. Michael was playing Charlie this morning, and we had drinks and dinner 2 nights ago.
And these guys already sound married in rehearsal.
Theater is so much more intimate. I was on a TV show for 5 years, and in a week, I already, in some ways, a few days, I can feel. We're all in it together. Absolutely.
That surprises me. I think of you all on a TV show like spending all your time together and being really knowing each other.
It's very much because it's all scattered. That you shoot things out of sequence. You're with this person for this scene, and you're not. You're rarely in it as a company. People are done at 3, and then they go home, and then I'm done at 2 in the morning, and I come home, and it's lovely, and to be blessed with doing something for 5 years is an incredible experience, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. And I love that community.
After
right?
The show closes.
But doing the play I did 6 years ago, or however many years ago that was. It's just you're in it. You're in something kind of terrifying together.
Yeah.
You are creating something, and you're absolutely a family in a way that you never are. And every night you're there telling the same story, and you need each other on stage in a way that you can always cut. Sorry, let me do this again. It's a more individual exercise. This is
It's interesting. 'Cause
You're
it's
listening,
almost,
and you have to be in it together. And I can already feel that that's beginning to develop.
yeah, that's part of what happens these couple days. Is how we build, as you were talking,
Yeah.
building a family. And then what's interesting about you saying the individualism, I think that's part of what the trap of the play is saying. A trap in the individual is to think of only the individual, that you don't flourish if you
Yeah.
think only of yourself. Adrianne, you have experience in all these mediums as well, but you also are unique in having a certain amount of experience with these sort of School of American Playwrights. I feel like you have an experience with these playwrights from the 30s, 40s, 50s in the American vernacular. You mentioned something about sort of the women in these plays. So how does that fit into you coming into the room?
Oh, wow. Well, I bring my grandmother and my mother, my grandmothers and my mother with me. And I'm sure many people have this experience of watching your grandmother. And I watched my grandmother and my mother hold together households that were chaos in many, many ways, and really navigate and negotiate, oh, don't tell your father this, and then there's uncles and cousins, extended families coming from other countries, children having this, that, and the other problem. And especially, I'm one of the sort of first educated women in my family. So like that the women were not my grandmother did not have, she had a high school education, and so the women in these plays, I find it so fascinating. You can't have a credit card. You can't get a lease. She is absolutely dependent on the man, the husband,
Which is hard
as
for them
the
both.
provider, and the survival of that.
Yeah.
I find fascinating. And I actually got a magazine off of eBay, a Good Housekeeping magazine from 1939. 49, sorry. There's an article in there about how to fight with your husband. And it leads up to like fighting's okay, it can clear the air, it can make passion between you if the passion goes dry. But then ultimately what it leads up to is like your survival is dependent on this guy. So when push comes to shove, unless he is treating you like an animal or beating you, you need to swallow it. You need to swallow it.
It almost literally says that.
Yeah,
right?
you need to swallow it, find a way to make him feel like a man, to lift him up, to raise him up, to get him out of the house, to make the cash, to bring it home, to feed the children, to put the food on the table.
right.
And I saw my mother do this, and I saw, even though she was a school teacher, my father never cooked. My father never took care of the children. So it's trying to, and I never identified that, I think, as a young woman, as strong. I thought, why are you letting this guy push you around? But after I had my own kid, and now I have a 23, 24, I can't remember how long I've been married for. She knows my husband really well. Now I go, oh my God, the strength in those women, the smarts, how smart my mother was, how smart my grandmother was. The fortitude that they had. And I don't think that they would describe themselves as strong. It was just the water they swam in.
Yeah.
And the love, the ferocious love they had for their families.
And we really see that in this marriage, right? Because
Yeah.
that's part of the baggage
I just love
love
these
leaves
women in this
behind
time.
is she does all the math, she's paying all the bills, she's keeping track of everything.
Yeah.
And you say, you're my foundation.
Yeah. We've had this moment several times when we've said, in our modern brains have trouble grasping what that's like to be in that kind of a marriage, to be in that kind of relationship where it's, she just does for me, and I can't get that, and you can't, but we'll figure it out and show you what that looks like.
Yeah. It's important, I think. Well, I have no doubt about that, actually, truly. And I think what you're hearing, which has been so moving, that kind of connects this question about its timeliness, is that humans struggling with each other in a family dynamic is kind of the great theme here. And something Kazan, who was the first director of Death of a Salesman and All My Sons. He was Miller's first director, also became a film director on the waterfront, and we can talk about, you know, the leftist politics of the times, right? Because the House of Un-American Activities, he named names, which became, for many, you know, such a tragedy that he would do that to the movement. Yeah. But he has brilliant things to say about this play. And one of the things he says is how frail the world feels to the Lomans. And I think that is in part capitalism, but it's right that there's no safety net. If he doesn't earn, where will they go? Yeah. And that is the other side of the American dream, which we're seeing played out now. So it's great if you're earning, but you know, they don't even talk about doctors' bills. They don't even mention doctors, right?
Oh, right.
Because I don't think they go to doctors.
No.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to keep the refrigerator running and trying to pay off the mortgage and the carburetor of the car and the roof needs fixing.
I say something about a dentist, I think.
You do say something about the
I
dentist.
just finished my dental work.
Yeah.
But it was worth mentioning, so it was obviously a thing.
So,
But everything's on credit.
Yeah.
Everything's on credit. The house is mortgaged, and all our appliances.
And that was was 3 decades old. I mean, the 20s is where that really took off, with credit, and it was not a thing before, you know. And so, again, that's the shaky part of the American dream. You're supposed to just have it all these appliances, everything.
And you see the cruelty of, so either we can call it the cruelty of capitalism or the working life or how we treat people who we feel are superannuated. Willy has a scene with the person who's taken over the company that he's worked for since he was 24, right? You start there at 24. You work there for 36 years, and when he turns 60, the company treats him badly. And the guy who's running the company is the son of the owner and is just living on Easy Street. He inherited the company, and so you see these different ways of being in an economic system, but it's not just about that, it's about what does it mean to be 40 and feel the top of your game, and how do you treat your colleague who's 20 years older and suffering, and the versions of how people interact with each other is, I think, a stunning aspect of the poetry of this play. Question? Yeah.
You mentioned table reads.
Table reads, yes.
I used to just table read, up on your feet. How many table reads do you do? Is it fixed in the budget? We have so much time.
Okay.
And how do you determine? Oh, and why are you miking if not for volume?
Oh yes, I was gonna. Thank you for bringing me back.
Really.
I'll talk about the miking. I'll talk about the miking thing first, and then talk about table reads. We're miking because we have an extraordinary collaborator who I've worked with before, who's a sound designer and composer. And because when we talk about it being inside his head and a kind of hallucinatory aspect and how memory and the present intermingle, and it's in the stage directions. A voice comes in and then another voice comes in and then someone in the present speaks. We can create a soundscape, and then I don't want the actors to have to yell above a soundscape. So yes, it will project them. But the idea of miking, we wouldn't mic at Hartford Stage this play if there weren't going to be a lot of sound underneath it. The human voice, and part of why I say it jokingly, but I mean it, for me being in a theater and hearing the human voice not filtered, not amplified, and not from a certain speaker means the world to me. That's a kind of religious experience, right? I would call theater my religion. And the human voice coming unfiltered for me is a huge part of live theater. When you hear the very and there's extraordinary Broadway sound designers, and our designer is a Broadway sound designer as well, but there's a certain kind of sound design where all the voices sound like they're coming from the same place. Yeah. It makes me crazy when, to not understand the exact timbre. So the miking is about the layering, and also it does allow me to throw voices so that someone can be stage right and Peter will hear their voice from a different place. So it helps sort of disorient Willy, because I feel like Willy, is that Linda talking?
Right.
Right.
Or is that someone else speaking right behind Linda, but then the woman appears to his right. So that's a kind of theater magic we're going to be practicing. To talk about rehearsals and to open this up, because you guys have plenty of experience with different versions of this as well. The short answer is we budget for a certain number of weeks. We budget for 3.5 weeks in a rehearsal room, and then we have 5 days of tech, and then we invite you to performances. It's crazy. Makes no sense. It somehow works. But so it's up to each director how they use the time. For me, the time around, we only read through the play nonstop once. We do one table read. We're not going to read it again nonstop. We're stopping, starting. We redo a page. We have an idea. Someone says, what if that means? Oh, let's do that page again. So we're kind of doing scene work, but we're doing it as a company. I don't know. You both have more experience with other directors than I do. So
table work is essential. I mean, especially for great plays. I mean, what struck me, I did a lot of Shakespeare when I was younger, and then stopped doing theater for a long time, and I just feel so blessed to come into Arthur Miller. It's like this, you just know.
It's like Shakespeare.
Yeah, I mean, you just feel you're in the hands of a great writer, and I'm just that's to say that you asked me what some of our different experiences were. My first professional job was Comedy of Errors. And the director was this wonderful man. He was Brazilian, and he didn't.
Was this at the Delacorte?
Yes.
Was this the Topless Fairies?
That was the summer before. He had done
My
Midsummer.
husband still talks about his favorite production of Midsummer.
So the public theater
Young
did.
Brazilian women topless.
Right.
I don't know what.
It was in 1990. They did Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yes.
Kaká Rosette was this really fun, great guy, and because
played
this
Bottom.
was no, I don't know if he played, but he directed it.
He directed it and played Bottom.
And a lot of naked ladies in the show. It was a huge hit. So the next summer they're like, well, this guy's great. He's going to direct Comedy of Errors. Which
It was
from
Comedy of Errors.
So it's Comedy of Errors. So, and this was my first gig. I got Dromio of Syracuse, and I was like, wow, I'm really being thrown out here into the.
And the
first
Delacorte,
day,
right? That's Shakespeare
that's
in the Park.
And
It's huge.
It's a beautiful theater, and it was thrilling the first day. I had just gotten out of grad school the year before, and like it is religion. You spend as much time as you need at the table. And with Shakespeare, you really do need to, because every minute is like, what does that mean?
Right.
And what does that mean?
Right.
And what does that mean?
Right.
So we're really digging in, and we go through the first act. And I began to watch the director out of the corner of my eye, and his English is not great. He was used to doing naked ladies in the show, but we were really digging into this.
It's a very good production, according to my husband.
Boyd Gaines, and a lot of these great actors who weren't going to do this lightly, even though it was a Comedy of Errors. It's still Shakespeare.
It's Shakespeare.
And so the director, I just saw him kind of like his eyes began to wander over the rehearsal room.
He was a clown.
Right.
He was not only Brazilian, he was a brilliant clown of that background.
But he had no idea, he had no interest in this table work. And after the first break, which was, I guess, after 2 hours, we came back and goes, let's just get up on our feet and play. And we were like, okay. And we never got through it. And production suffered mightily for that. Yeah. It was a lot of shtick. It was a circus. It was a lot of goofy stuff. But we would rehearse on our own. Like Boyd and I were master and servant, and we would spend an hour downstairs at the public, working on doing all that table work, because you need it. You do need it.
Yeah.
That's a great story.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Kaká Rosette. That's when I met Chuck. We were dating that summer, and I worked at the public, so I could get us right into the Delacorte. We didn't have to stand in line. So it was a big deal. But anyway, table work and directors? A good story?
I don't have any good, but I have a similar, like just a general, like if you don't do it, you're going to it bites you in the ass at the end.
It really, and it's part of, I think, and to sort of wrap up a bit, unless you guys have other questions, I don't want to hold everybody hostage.
Can I say this really, really quickly?
Of course you can.
So one thing Melia taught me about acting, you said this, I can't remember what play it was on, but that the act of speaking is actually an action. Like to talk actually changes time and it's actually impactful. So
he doesn't suck. That's it. That was good. That was really good.
So if you don't spend time with the words, understanding the words, the punctuation, the rhythms, how you and I have actually one voice sometimes. I feel like how that all that you have. It's like building a house with just a roof.
Right.
That's
like
right.
there's nothing.
That's a great.
There's nothing holding it up.
That's
and
great.
that, in a sense, if we come around, that's what makes it a new play.
Yeah.
Because each time each of these people or
voices.
any of the actors speaks a word, it's the first time that word has been said by that person.
Yeah.
And when you come to the theater, you are experiencing the only time those words will be said by these people with exactly that air. It's the, what is it, you can't step in the same spot in a river twice, right? I have totally butchered that quote.
We get it.
You never
But
enter
that-
the same river twice.
There you go.
Yeah.
You never,
Enter the same.
yes, exactly.
You
Hers or
never
hers?
enter the same river twice. It's an old Zen koan, I think.
Is it? Well, and not the Coens, but the koan, right? The Coens say, what river? Am I going to get wet? Do I have galoshes?
I'm not going in that river. You go in there.
There are, I will say, it's a tragedy. It's a tremendously moving experience, but it's also not ponderous. It has lightness. It has joy. It has love, and it's very fast. And part of what we've been talking about, and I invite you all to come see it, is how alive and new a play it can really feel. I say it's not, you know, if you ask someone, why is the Mona Lisa great? I say this all the time, so forgive me those of you who've heard it, but there's a sense we know the Mona Lisa's great, but have you ever really looked at that painting? And it's hard, there's panes of glass and, right, a lot of people taking pictures in front of it. But that experience of seeing this play not behind panes of glass, not behind layers of history, Pulitzer, Tony, Lee J. Cobb, you know, Dustin Hoffman, whatever, who cares? It's this raw piece of energetic writing that vibrates and that coming through these extraordinary actors will sound your instrument in ways that will surprise you. So thank you for being here today, and do join us for information online, of course. We start performances February 27th.
Are we in January still, or are we?
We're still in January.
Barely.
Oh no. So yes, we start end of February and we run till end of March. And we really hope you'll come join us, because you should see these guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And really, for extra credit, since you came, tell them the story of why you met.
Do you want to hear this story?
Of course they want to.
All right, very quickly. We're both from Chicago. I graduated from college. I moved back to Chicago. I'm going to be an actress. I get this day job at this nursery school. And there's this beautiful little girl in the nursery school. Her name is Julia. And it's like all the teachers are talking. And it's like, do you know that she is Walter Jacobson's daughter? And Walter Jacobson, Peter's father, in Chicago, while I was growing up, was one of the premier newscaster, and everyone, 5 o'clock news, Walter Jacobson. My mother had a huge crush on him. We had dinner with him every night, Walter Jacobson and everything. And so one day, Julia's mother asked me to babysit, and I'm like, yes, because I will see Walter Jacobson's house. And she said, the first time I went, she said, well, I'm not going to be there, but my stepson will be there. His name's Peter. He's an actor. He's studying at Juilliard now, and he'll show you around. And so I walk in, and there he is, and he's got all this dark hair. And, you know, I'm the babysitter, so he's like, yeah, it's over. See you later.
I was very cool.
The moment's embedded in my mind, and he's like, yeah. And we're like 23, 24 years old. Yeah, young 20s. Yeah.
And my sister, that Julia is now 40, and she just had her first child. She lives in upstate New York, and she's going to come see the play.
Yeah, I get to see Julia again.
They found out after they'd been cast.
Well, you told me. I didn't remember. It was great.
I know. Amelia told me. I was like, oh my God.
And then we met on Zoom. It's like, hi, I know you. We met a long time ago. It's crazy.
It's great.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Lovely. Thank you.